Smart24, driving business.
We'll be back from the break and you're still watching the Policon here on Smart24 television. Today we are analyzing quite a number of huge aspects rotating around Uganda's local markets, but this time around looking at it from the angle of the manufacturers, the goods that are produced locally in Uganda by our local manufacturers or by our local persons here or the Ugandans themselves. And of course we cannot have such a discussion minus having the man that chairs the Uganda Manufacturers Association, that is the Executive Director, Dr. Ezra Muhumuza, who's taking us through all these particular discussions. Now, Doctor, when you look at the fact that government has always been interfering in all these sectors, obviously because it is the spearhead of the happenings within the country, when you look at the fact that government in one way or the other has interfered, how has the interference into Uganda's manufacturing affected the development, or how has it impacted on the development of this sector?
Thank you very much on that one. It's a very important aspect to interrogate.
Okay.
The beginning point of analyzing government's interference in private sector or manufacturing comes from the appreciation of the symbiotic relationship that government has with industry. The thing is, who is the key beneficiary from an industry?
Oh, yes.
It is government. The actual owner of an industry is the least beneficiary, for your information, from this factory.
Okay.
The key person or the key element, component that benefits is government. Government gets the taxes. And in the back world, we never used to want to explain it, that actually government is depending on someone else.
Ah.
The truth of the matter, government depends on the private sector. Because when you look at the component of tax that is paid by the public servants, it does not constitute even 5% of the GDP or the revenue that we collect in tax. Meaning that the majority of the contribution comes from the private sector. But because government had the pride element, it took them long to appreciate that fact, that really you ought to look at an industrialist as your boss.
Okay.
Not as your servant. It is a perspective that is evolving slowly, but we have to deconstruct it. That private sector, that government needs private sector more or equally the way government, the way private sector would want government. How does private sector want government? We want government to create security and to create a peaceful environment. Put laws so that we don't fight. Come in when we have conflicts, help us to sort them out. Secure our consumers because we need the market. That's how we need government. Government needs us because if there is no goods and services provided by the private sector, people will resort to this question to government that we need this. You have had cases where people demonstrate because there is lack of food. But in a situation where private sector provides food, then there is harmony. In other words, whatever the private sector does for and on behalf of government.
Okay.
We help government to exist, and therefore government has to. But this reality has taken time for so many people in good coffers of government to appreciate.
Okay.
So, currently, we are seeing a revolution.
Okay.
And we must appreciate what government is doing. Government has put power onto the grid. It is still expensive power, but it has been availed. At least you want to take government on that one. There is some security and relative peace for the market to operate. Government still bestows power of judiciary. We have commercial cases. Government has provided and helped us to resolve some of these issues. Government has gone out to negotiate regional markets for us. We appreciate all these facts. But we still never stop to say, please continue to respect, continue to listen, continue to engage at the private sector for you to be able to design good policies.
Okay. Now, how do you think the manufacturers can collaborate with the government? Because now we are looking at the long run, creating harmony, and seeing that the government is going to be a force behind the growth of the manufacturers here, because it has to create wide doors for us. Now, with the fact that the East African community is already here, we have 7 countries. We are the 7th, though, for the moment. So we have 6 countries providing market. Now we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, which I would actually ask you whether you believe it will be a very huge starting point for our manufacturers, first of all.
The market, any market at any time is good.
Okay.
But it's what comes from the market that really we want to analyze and see. Is this market going to be giving us, 1, quality products,
okay,
2, good prices, 3, flow of information, competition, what we would call healthy competition, because competition helps us to improve. So those are the idealistic benefits from a regional market at whatever level. But we have a challenge of implementation of these protocols. We still have, it's not only in Uganda, not only in Kenya, neither other countries around us, we still have tendencies of some companies which would want to grow bigger than governments themselves. And they end up inducing policies or protocols that jeopardize incoming of other competitors. In other words, you use state power to create monopoly, and it's not healthy on the other side of the market. So those are the internal engagements that we are having on the regional market, and we continue to pray our governments to engage, and they create a smooth, harmonized working environment or market environment.
Okay. When you look at this, let me pose this one as well to you. The role, what could be the role of manufacturers in promoting inclusive economic growth and reducing this level of inequality around the business community?
I think before we look at only the business community, yes, you want to look at the entire economy.
Yes.
Because to us, every stakeholder, every citizen has got a stake in an economy. So we don't work for only the government or the entrepreneur, the owner of the factory.
True.
As I said, the beneficiaries from an industry go beyond the government, go beyond. They include the consumers, they include the suppliers of the raw materials that we use, they include the agents that distribute the products we send out there. So the whole thing is that we have a responsibility to increase growth across the country, which you call inclusive growth. One strategy that we have as Uganda Manufacturers Association is to take these industries beyond the Kampala, Jinja, Mukono industrial conurbation, start to take them out to the other regions. Because raw materials are out there, we have government out there. In every center there is local government. So we are trying to work or touch base with the local governments, and we identify their profiles, they profile their raw materials, and then we see. Power is already out there. The market is out there. So there is no reason why we should continue looking at all the factories to be in Namave. We could have decongesting industries, which are normally lines of the bigger industries that can go out there and create inclusive growth.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, when you look at this, what measures do you think the manufacturers can take to at least address some of this negative pressure that comes with the political interference without being shaken a lot?
The approach is always one and the same.
Okay.
It is to increase advocacy, constructive advocacy, and you make these people understand facts and realities that are happening in there. For instance, now, we are very glad that in every ministry, you raise an advocacy paper. They give attention and read through and understand these issues that we are trying to bring. So it's increasing engagement. We have opened all the industries, to all forms or sects of government, to come and see what is happening. Trust me, most of the people have not had a chance to visit these industries and see. Once we increase the sharing of information, sharing of these facts, we believe that this other negative perception we have, or some government people would have, will eventually get eroded.
All right. Now, implementing the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda policy, like you've mentioned, it is not focusing on stopping imports, but rather appreciating our locally manufactured goods. And I think you would agree with me when you look at most of the retail or when you look at most of the supermarkets in the country, most of them have lots of goods that are not from Uganda. Have there been any engagements that you've had with these retailers and supermarket owners in regards to at least accepting quite a number of our goods on their, in their markets inside?
Yes, one of the strategies to increase the information, say that what we understand of these products is what is understood of these products by the consumer and the distributor as well.
Yes.
So one strategy that we are doing is to profile our products. It is something that we have not been doing. Describe our products properly for the people to understand. Number two is engagement. We are not going to take it for granted that a supermarket must have our things.
Yeah.
We must intensify the marketing strategies, which we are doing at both association level and we are encouraging each manufacturer to do at individual level, which is micro level, and the meso level, which is at the sector. Because in manufacturing we have sectors. We say we have the manufacturers of plastics, that's a sector.
Yes.
We have these for mattresses, that's a sector, something like that. Engagement at all the three fronts to engage the uptakers of what we want to distribute. Then the other thing is to engage media to ensure that we increase the description of our products.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think the awareness is quite important.
That's the awareness, yes.
Well, there's some issue that is seeming to eat up the Ugandan market, and it's now also eating up our local manufacturers. Back then it was mainly around goods that are actually being imported here, and that is none other than counterfeit and fake products on the market. How can our local manufacturers who do a lot of manufacturing to do with high quality goods, because they're already competing with goods coming out from the country and they're now fighting this, how can they fight this issue of fake products on the market?
There are three ways of fighting fake products.
Yes.
First of all, there is this hypothetical question that that is around it.
Yes.
Fake, according to the description, is it the consumer? If the consumer can pick on something and consume it, then it may not be necessarily fake, according to them. But there is when they pick on it because they are ignorant about
it.
Differentiation between the
original,
normal, I would say normal product, which is normal in terms of the ingredients that have been standardized, and a counterfeit because of lack of that information. So that gives us an entry point to differentiate between these things, and then the intervention, which is bridged by increasing awareness. Then number two, we need to agree and disassociate where products which are competing, one competitor brands the other as counterfeit because they want to use that to take them off market. Then that brings us into the question of regulation. This is the job of the regulator to say, this I don't want on the market, this should be on the market because it meets the minimum standards that are required of a product to be called as so.
Okay.
Now, regulation in this country has challenges. The rate at which products are flowing in is higher than the rate at which these regulatory institutions are capable of being in everywhere to regulate and monitor what is happening on the market. So we are coming up with a strategy to ensure that we support the regulatory institutions by coming up with an approach we call collaborative regulation. That it is incumbent on me as a consumer to earmark and say, this is not good. It is incumbent on me as a manufacturer to say, this is not good, it is spoiling the market. Which is an improvement from a situation where it was nobody's business. We want to move from nobody's business to everyone's business by creating that collaborative effort to enhance regulation. Then, within the sector, we are promoting self-regulation as a sector. Each sector, as I've said, let each sector come up with codes. That if we are together in a sector, we should be able to reach somewhere and say, no, company X is spoiling the market because they are bringing in fake things. We will raise an arm and say, association that takes us, there is one of us is abusing the classroom. Then the class monitor can come in. So that information has got to come from within the sector. So that's why we are promoting, we are coming up with a prolonged approach which is multifaceted. We support the regulatory framework for government and the other regulatory bodies of the region. We come up with collaborative frameworks and then promote self-regulation frameworks as well.
Okay. Now, Doctor, lastly, looking at the future. When you look at the future, where do you see our manufacturing sector, and what should our manufacturers do to ensure that they continue promoting and developing the social and economic environment in Uganda?
The future of manufacturing is in healthy competition, and at the same time it lies in partnerships. For instance, we are opening up markets. You do not have to go it alone.
Yes. To
supply a given market. Let's say we have now, it's incumbent on us to supply Liberia. We are looking up to, Algeria.
Algeria.
If you get a consignment to supply in Algeria, don't leave it because your capacity is small. Come to the association, we create a framework where you can amalgamate, aggregate capacities. Supply 10 tons, someone supplies 12 tons, another one 13 tons. We arrive at 30 tons, which is required in the concession, in the consignment. Then we send that one. So other than saying, for me to supply 30 tons, I have got to first increase my capacity alone. No, that's not doing business. So we are encouraging our manufacturers to start looking at consortium supplies.
Okay, and what are some of those shortcomings that they should worry about in the near future as well? Things that they should prepare for so that it doesn't in any way affect the provision of the goods that they are actually, trying to provide, the atmosphere they are trying to, or the pace that is actually being set currently?
Two things we are trying to put our manufacturers and the business sector as a whole,
yes,
to a level, uplifting them. One is we are preparing them that to the moment you open your doors and you are going out, it's like when you are going out of your house, you ought to dress decently.
Sure.
So here we are trying to tell them that for you to survive, you have to do business professionally. Domestic business sometimes has corners. You manipulate here and there, but the regional market is very difficult because you go beyond beyond one or two frameworks. For instance, we hear people who have survived on tax holidays. But if you survive on tax holiday in Uganda, you will not survive on tax holiday when you are supplying to Ghana. You ought to pay taxes because you are getting into another market. So for you to do it is to appear clean, have your records clear, have everything run professionally, have professional people to run the business. These whole things of I am going to do it my way is not sustainable for the future. So it's one way how we are preparing our business people, our manufacturers. The second thing is to ensure that we engage into investment into logistics. Business in the region, it will only be there when there is logistical investment. So we are increasing our push to government, our lobby to government, to see that increased investment into logistic frameworks are put in place. And that's why we're saying where government finds a problem, the private sector is listening to engage into PPPs, yes, to ensure that we set up logistical infrastructure that will support the sustainability of this trade.
Okay, and Doctor, many thanks for joining us on the Policon, but your final remarks as we are winding up with our conversations here.
The final remarks is that we appeal to the public that this, I would say, bad or unprecedented propaganda,
okay,
that domestically produced goods are not good for consumption is wrong. Interrogate a product by a product. The mentality that imported things are basically the norm is wrong. So we open and encourage Ugandans to consume things that are produced locally, to consume things that are produced regionally. This is where the future lies. Okay. You should come to me to employ your son by after looking at what is on your shelf. Because if I don't survive, the employment of your son will not survive.
True.
And therefore, it is not sustainable for you to pay money and you take this son of yours to school. So know that when you support a local industry, you are supporting your own self. That's what I would want to call Ugandans to pay attention to.
All right, many thanks for joining us and honoring our invitation here. And of course, there you've heard it from Dr. Ezra Muhumuza, who is the ED, Uganda Manufacturers Association. The bigger discussions that we are having were looking deeper into understanding how the manufacturing sector is contributing greatly to the social and economic development of the country. The Policon is where we discuss politics and economics, and of course trying to understand different policies that affect the social and economic well-being of the Ugandans and the business community as well. I'm Joram Paul Sonko. Till next time, but a quick reminder, GoTV, we are now on channel 320, DSTV channel 372 is where you can get us via mainstream and also free to air decoders. And of course, for those who want to interact with us online, Smart24 TV now is Twitter And then Facebook is Smart24 TV official. Instagram, on the other hand, is Smart24.tv. Smart24/TV. And also do remember that our website is www.smart24.tv/news if you want real-time business updates, both local and international. Till next time, we do wish you well. This has been the Policon.